My name is Pete Reinhardt, and I'm going to share with you several things to consider before signing a severance agreement. It is common for an employer who is discharging an employee to offer a severance payment. This is particularly true when the discharge does not involve misconduct by the employee. An employer is not required by law to offer any severance payment, nor is the employer required to offer any specific amount of severance. Prior to making a severance payment, an employer will almost always require an employee to sign a written agreement. Severance agreements may have different titles, such as a Resignation and Release Agreement, Separation and Release Agreement, or Retirement and Release Agreement. Regardless of what it is called, the agreement will create important legal rights and remedies for both parties. While the severance payment will assist the departing employee with some of his or her financial needs on a short-term basis, the severance agreement also serves very useful purposes for the employer. It allows the employer to obtain certain promises from the employee about the employee's conduct after the separation from employment. For example, a severance agreement almost always includes an agreement by the employee that releases the employer from any and all claims that could be asserted by the employee against the employer that arise out of or relate to the employment relationship. If properly drafted, the release will preclude the employee from suing the employer for such things as employment discrimination or wrongful termination. Employees who are 40 years or older are given special protections under federal law with respect to severance agreements. They are given 21 days to consider the severance agreement and 7 days after signing the agreement to revoke or rescind the agreement. Other common provisions in severance agreements include a promise by the employer that he or she will not disparage, that is, badmouth the employer, and a requirement that the employee will keep the payment of severance confidential. Some severance agreements will contain promises by the employee that he or she will not compete with the employer for a period of time after the separation from employment. In Wisconsin, an employee cannot release or waive his or her right to make a workers' compensation claim. Most well-drafted agreements contain a specific reference to the fact that this right is not being waived or released. Employees are usually able to negotiate some of the terms of a severance agreement with the employer. A common term subject to negotiation is how the employer will refer to the separation from employment, as a resignation or a termination, as well as how an employer will handle requests for information from prospective employers. Another common term subject to negotiation is that the employer will not contest unemployment compensation. A severance agreement is a legal document with important legal consequences. Both the employer and employee should understand the terms of the severance agreement before signing it.